Ready graphics? Ready theme? Cue graphics.
Good evening. For your information tonight.
Was this magnificent looking girl, drop dead gorgeous girl, black hair pulled back straight down to her back, beautiful, huge blue eyes, full voluptuous lips. Elaine said, Elaine Rich, she's, hi, I'm a manager. This is my client, Fran Drescher.
Hi, I'm Jessie Mullins.
And I'm Lauren Milberger.
And this is FYI,
the Murphy Brown Podcast. And today is an interview episode.
It is a very special interview episode.
Yes, we're very, very excited.
It's our first actor.
Yes! Yes! That's right. I hadn't even thought about that.
Right?
Yes.
I'm very excited.
I'm very excited too. Jessie, tell them who we have on.
We have renowned character actress Marianne Muellerleile.
She is definitely the type of actress that has been in so much that you know her face, but you may not know her name. I was thinking that she should definitely have been in that documentary, That Gal Who Was in That Thing.
It's so true. Like, you really go and Google her. We'll have a link to her website and everything in the show notes. She's that person that she has so many credits because she's been going for 46 years.
There was so much we didn't get a chance to talk about. She was in Soap Dish and Terminator.
And I found out that she is a close family friend to one of my best friends in New York City. She's everywhere. She's everything. And we were originally going to do a shorter episode with her, and we just couldn't stop talking to her because she had so many great stories, and she has such a wealth of knowledge about the industry and about her career. And as actresses, obviously, we're very intrigued
But I think
by it.
that even if you're not in acting, you're going to really love this interview. She goes through all the different television shows she's been on. So it's history of TV as well as her time on Murphy Brown. She has some great things to say.
Yes. I'm excited to listen to it again. I feel like she drops so many little pearls of wisdom that I just want to apply to my life. I'm probably going to make a meme out of one of the things she says about her career. So please listen, enjoy. When you're done, follow us on social media. We're on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook as Murphy Brown Pod.
You can also find us on our website at www.murphybrownpod.com.
And if you want to email us your experiences with Murphy Brown, what Murphy Brown meant to you, you can email us at murphybrownpod@gmail.com, or
you can record yourself on your phone and email us a little soundbite that we can include on the show.
Please enjoy, and we'll see you next week.
Bye.
Bye.
Mystery guest, will you please sign in?
My name is Marianne Muellerleile. This is my 46th year as a professional actor, and I happily appeared as Secretary 8 on Murphy Brown.
Well, congratulations on a career of longevity that's still going.
Yes, it is.
As a Minnesotan, I got very excited to see the University of Minnesota plug. My mom was a professor for one of the branches of the U of M for 47 years.
Oh,
way up north.
Good for her.
Up north. And I just saw you in a commercial watching Hulu the other day.
Yes, I actually, I have 8, you mean my McDonald's, one of the McDonald's? Yeah, there are 8 spots out, and a 9th one is coming out March 13th for March Madness.
Oh, that's great. Congrats on your residuals.
Yes.
So we always like to start off first, because obviously we're both actors. What's your origin story, and what brought you into acting?
Well, I was not planning on being an actor. I thought it was way too impractical, and it is. But so I went to an undergraduate school, a Catholic university in St. Louis, and got a degree in drama and education, certified to teach in high school and college. And but afterwards, I thought, well, there's still so much I need to learn. I didn't know puppetry. I didn't know fencing. I didn't know opera. And dialects. Many areas of drama that wasn't provided. It wouldn't be provided at a non-conservatory program. So I decided to go to University of Minnesota, and my next challenge was to pick, well, do I want a master's in art, which would normally follow for a drama teacher. But when I looked at the curriculum and saw so much of it were lecture classes, I thought, oh, no, I can't do that. I'm going to get a master's in fine arts in acting because that's more fun. I said, I'll pick up everything I need to teach the kids. So that was always the plan. And then I did I played Eunice in Streetcar Named Desire at a U of M production. And the professor, Dr. Charles Nolte, had been as a young man a Broadway star, and he knew Tennessee Williams, so he invited him to come to see our university production.
Wow. That's amazing.
Yeah, I know. It's shocking. So while we were, while he was in the Twin Cities, the newspapers all wanted interviews, and he gave them, and he mentioned the 3 young actresses, and he mentioned our names and said that we were the future of the American theater. So I thought, whoa. Anyway, no, it didn't make me think I should be an actor, but I was impressed, and then all these regional theater directors came to see the show, and we all 3 got offered contracts. Now, I turned it down the first year. I said, well, it was Terrence Kilburn at Meadowbrook Theater. I said, well, I'm at the end of my first year of a 2.5-year program. So could you ask me again in another year, and I will try to accelerate my program to finish? And he said, absolutely. And so in that year, I totally switched my focus and learned about the union and health and pension and minimum wage and all the rules that govern actors and et cetera. That's how I became an actor.
That's such an intelligent approach. I often go on rants about how I think more, especially liberal arts degrees, as performers, we need to have a minor in business, because so many people are not prepared for the business side. When we leave, we learn all of the crafts and all of the dialects. We learn combat, like all of the things I have yet to use. And then once you get out into the world and suddenly you're up against contracts and not knowing when you can sign things and when you don't have to and what the unions are. And that was a brilliant move.
Actually, I realized that it's because I have left brain and right brain, and it's about 50-50 in my being evaluated over this. And that's been true my whole life. And I did, once I got to the theater in Michigan, I taught a course on how to survive show business. And it was all the things you're talking about.
We need more of that.
I did that for a few years. Nowadays there's a bit more about it, but not nearly as there needs to be.
Well, and it's changing every year what you need to know and who you get in front of and how you get in front of them. It's very interesting. What's been the biggest change that you've seen over your time?
My gosh. There's so many change, but of course the biggest has to be technology. One of the things I find just horrifying is that the young people, and then all the rest of us who are in the industry, but the young people those who are just breaking in, they must have full media savvy and have Instagram and Twitter and Reddit and Snapchat and Facebook and their own website and all that. And so I do it myself. I loathe doing it. It just sucks the life out of me, the time that it takes. But I know that if it does come down to 2 of us, myself and another, and we both be wonderful to part, they will generally go with the person who has the most followers. Mm-hmm. So I do it because as long as I'm in the game, I need to be fully in the game. And my agents are thrilled. I'm one of their older people that do any of it. I get why I don't know that that's going to change. I heard somebody say the other day, I did a career day at a high school, and I heard one of the actors say, it's passing phase. I thought, well, maybe you're in your 30s, but I'm 69. It's going to be with me till the grave, at least. So for me, that's the biggest change.
I think it will definitely change in execution and maybe the platforms, but the concept of being visually accessible and knowing that you have a market coming in behind someone, a demographic that's already guaranteed. I remember being taught about the star meter on IMDb and how important that was. And now I took a similar course recently just to refresh everything because everything's changing and I can't keep up with it. And they're saying that like that's pretty much an archaic measure now because
Totally.
That was about what you're being printed in. Now it's all about how many followers you have.
Totally.
And I just recently became active on Instagram because I would go to auditions and they mostly was for commercials at the beginning. Want to know how many followers I have. And I hated it so much. So I thought if I wasn't on Instagram, then they couldn't measure me because I didn't have anybody.
It was a choice.
But now I realized it was something I had to do. So now I'm active.
Good for you.
Yeah, I finally did it.
I'm best at the Instagram. I'm best at Instagram.
She is, yes. And
I am too. I actually loathe Twitter because it's all about personal opinion right now. I don't care about it. Topical stuff, transitory stuff, I don't care about. So I put very little on Twitter.
I call it a hellscape.
It is a hellscape.
Yes, yet I'm most active on Twitter.
I mean, I enjoy Twitter because I have a lot of random one-liners that I just need to get out.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah. We're also writers. And so I think that I like it because it is more sort of, one-liner based. I would say that on Twitter, I don't have a large political presence. I retweet things, but I save sort of my own political views for other platforms.
I have a lot of large and strong and articulate opinions, but I don't find Twitter to be the best platform for me to get them out in a constructive way. So I'm mostly me being excited about Black Panther coming out and really sassy one-liners on my commute. And Instagram, I'm from a family of photo people, so
Perfect.
I love sharing photos, man.
I do too. So I really should have been on it before, but I was a little reluctant. One thing that I think for us and our listeners is very impressive about your resume is how much television you've done.
Yes.
Sort of piggybacking on Jesse's question, in television, maybe even particularly in sitcom, what do you see the changes?
Well, the biggest change, which now they're coming back to, at least it used to be a 3-camera platform where you did about 22 minutes. It was a little play, and it really felt like being on stage because they had live audiences. Then for many years they went to film, and it just takes so much longer, and for me sucks the spontaneity out of it. I still enjoy watching sitcoms that are done on film, but as an actor doing them, I prefer the 3-camera, and now many of them are going back to that, and I'm very grateful for that.
Yes, so am I.
I mean, it's the closest to live theater they can get.
I love it.
And doing comedy, I mean, I have a theater company that is primarily comedically based, and it's, a good show by your audience. You know your moments. You know what's working by the swell in the room, and that just makes sense for comedy to have an audience whenever possible.
Yeah, certain things that work on, in the rehearsal might not necessarily work in front of a live audience. SNL is a great example of that.
Yes.
Because they cut things that just were great and then bomb in front of the audience.
Yeah.
So you started in coming out of the University of Minnesota. Which coast did you end up going to first?
Well, since I thought I was only going to be doing stage, I mean, I didn't think beyond that. Although the director, Terrence Kilburn at Meadowbrook, who hired me and I did 6 seasons there, he always told me that I will hit my stride in my 40s and that I should go to the West Coast. And I said, well, why do I need to do? He said, because you're going to get the job in the interview. And I didn't understand that, but I did eventually, of course, when I came. So after 3 years in Meadowbrook, I moved to New York and continued to do Meadowbrook and then other regional theaters. And then I felt that I'd done Meadowbrook, and it had been fantastic. I ended up doing 25 shows and musicals and stuff. And so I thought, well, can I make it in New York? I have to not accept any work outside of New York to see if I can make it here. And by making it, I was really telling myself, make a living, because I had no desire ever to be famous. I set 3 goals in that year at U of M, where I was deciding, okay, I'm going to be an actor, not a teacher. I set 3 goals for my career, which was longevity, constancy, and variety.
Ooh, Oh,
That's wonderful.
that's amazing.
And
I love
that's
that.
what it's been. That's exactly what it's
Oh,
been.
yes. No, just looking at your IMDb, it's very obvious that even in TV and film, that is definitely what you've done.
Yeah. So I went to New York. I made the decision not to accept work outside of New York. And the answer to can I make it? The answer was no. I could not make enough money. And I realized that I could not compete with the kids that had gone to conservatories. I didn't even know conservatories existed. I didn't know Juilliard was a place, to dedicate your life to only learning performing arts or whatever your field is. I didn't know about Yale Rep and all that. A drama teacher didn't need to know about those schools. So, but once I got into the New York scene, it's chock-a-block with triple threat talent. And I couldn't. I can sing. I have sung. I do sing, but I can't sing like a kid who spent 4 years at Juilliard, And so the interesting thing happened, though, in that year, I was finding this out, was I had picked up a throwaway newspaper, and it said looking for women size 14 to 16 to become clients at large size modeling agency. And this was in the 70s. And I thought, well, I'm not a model. So I threw it away. And the second month I saw it, and I thought, yeah, not a model. Third month I saw it and said, well, not a model, but I can act like one.
Yes.
So I went to this woman's house in Central Park West and was interviewed, and I became the first person she hired for her modeling agency. So that year I did do runway, print, and fit modeling, and I made some money, not enough to live on. So it was the same year. Although I had a great year in New York, I faced the reality I can't make enough money to ever buy a car, let alone a house. I said, I've got to go to LA. So I came here in 1981 at the age of 33. I'd saved $6,000. The idea was that it would be $1,000 a month is what I needed, and that was a reasonable amount to live on. And if I couldn't make it here, I'd just go back to New York. But I hit right away. It's kind of a long story, so I won't tell you. But I got my first audition. I got my second audition. And then I settled into not getting them, like everybody else, doing a bunch. But very quickly, I realized, oh, yeah, this is it. I did have to learn, though. It took me a long time. And in fact, sometimes some of the issues I have with doing TV and film is that I still speak with a stage voice, which is why I was perfect for Secretary Number 8.
Exactly. Yes. I said when we did your episode that is a theater voice that's coming out of that particular performance.
Now that we've segued very naturally to Murphy Brown, do you remember anything about your experience, either auditioning or the production or being on set? I know it was a while ago.
Yeah. It
was a couple years.
30 years ago.
Yes.
I remember it, not because I looked it up, but because I did it right before I was going to get married.
Oh.
And my husband, it was now 30 years, so it's been 30 years since I did that show. Number one, I loved the part.
It's so good.
It's so good. She's so well-meaning.
Yes.
And so loud. So I loved it. And but I what I remember is that my husband, who was a colonel in the Air Force, came down for the screening. He was at an air base about 45 minutes drive. He came down for the screening, and it was the first time he saw me do anything. Oh. And so it was very, very exciting. And he came in his uniform, and I'm telling you, he got more play in that after after we wrapped and we all mingled and said hello to my agent, and this is Candace Bergen. People were and he's 6'4". People were just at him because he was so fabulous, all his medals and everything. And I'm just thinking, I know, he's mine. So, I mean, that's not exactly what you wanted to hear about my Murphy Brown experience.
That's great.
That's exactly what we wanted to hear about.
Hey, I love a good man in uniform. Fleet Week here is fantastic.
Oh, my grandma has a story about World War II when my grandpa and she had known each other prior to him going off. And he apparently came back on leave, and she had no intention to see him because she had a job now, and she wasn't going to see him. And she told this story for years about how he showed up where she worked, and she turned around, and he was in his uniform. And you would hear my 80-plus-year-old grandmother just drop into that young woman and just that blonde man in uniform.
Yes.
There's something about it.
It's pretty potent. Mm-hmm. And the remarkable thing is 30 years later, he can still wear his uniform.
That's very impressive.
Congrats to him.
Yeah.
He's a tall, thin man. Anyway, what I remember really about the show is Barnett Kellman, a fabulous director. I'd only been in L.A. 5 years at that time, but I'd had a lot of work even in that 5 years. And, he stood out as he knew the format so well. He was flawless in his directing. He was, is such ease, and it's like everybody was on the same playing field. There wasn't any separation between guest stars and stars or series regulars. There was just a mutual respect. They all knew they had a great product. It hadn't gotten garnered, all the accolades that it, of course, did over the 10 years, but everybody knew this was a very smart, very savvy show, and I was very proud to be on it.
Yeah, it's amazing for us going back right now through the show because we're on season 1, and it's just for a first season of a show that was considered such a risk. It's so strong.
Yeah.
It's unbelievable.
It's very exciting that they're going to reboot it. There's so much to talk about.
Was it Norm we were talking to about when he said, can you imagine Murphy with Twitter?
Yes. We had one of the original writers on, and we were talking about sort of and this is before we even knew that the reboot was going to happen, revival.
The revival.
I need to correct myself.
Yes, the revival.
I still interchange those words, even though I know, so we all do it. But all the modern conveniences.
Dan Quayle thought he had it bad. Can you imagine Murphy right now with Twitter?
Well,
so good.
I can't imagine how many times she was suspended for saying something on Twitter.
Oh my gosh, yes.
It's that's one of the things that I am excited about is that it's not just a regular revival of bringing back these amazing actors and this great writing.
We were saying that we don't have to go far to find a current parallel with really any of these stories. We were talking about, women in the workplace and raising each other up rather than being against each other and going for the same single role allowed for a woman. Or they did the man with the gun in the onset, and then we did the man who passed away, and we were talking about Antonin Scalia. Like, we were talking about all these different things. We don't have to go very far, which is why we're not surprised a revival is showing up.
Yeah, but we had no idea when we, of course, started this podcast.
It was Christmas for us.
Very much so.
I mean, I'd love to ask you about, as we said, the longevity of your career. We'd love to hear about some of your favorite roles over the years. I know my personal favorite of yours is probably on Third Rock from the Sun, which was a very important show for me.
I can talk about that. That was a nice thing that happened. I was only hired, of course, to do the one episode. But John Lithgow told the producers, I want her back. I need her back. She's got to be back. And because of that, I ended up recurring and leaving the cafeteria, going to the office. I just loved it. And the thing I remember most about that experience, besides being wanted, and Terry Hughes was the director on that, and he directed all of them, was that they had on the lot, it was CBS Radford, they had a separate building that normally has, it still does, contains office buildings, but on the first floor they had a full kitchen. And every day at lunch, the entire cast went over and a lunch had been prepared for them, and they all sat down and ate. Now that's unusual in my experience. But what's far more unusual is that they asked the guest cast to come. It just doesn't happen because I think mainly because you get a lot of variety in the type of people that are guest starring, a lot of different personalities. And most series regulars don't need to make any new best friends, and they've been working and they need their lunch break and perhaps privacy and cocoon and a time to, relax. And so I found it remarkable that they said, oh, no, come, no, don't spend your money. Oh, no. And so for all my time there, they always included me. And also, along the same vein, at Christmas, they all gave me gifts.
Oh.
They all exchanged gifts, and they gave me a gift.
Oh.
Now, I got to tell you, I thank God, I always, if I'm working around Christmas time, I always bake loaves of pumpkin bread and give them to people. But I've been doing that forever. This past Christmas, even though I actually had been sick, I made 60 loaves.
Wow.
So, I got about 4 left. I'll get rid of them before spring, But that just stunned me, to get a gift from, well, thank you. I wrote lovely thank you notes.
Yes, you do.
So,
yeah, I think there's something about those ensemble shows. I think that's something that shows up in the work as well. You see that with the Murphy Brown cast. You see that with the Third Rock cast.
Yeah, I think you're right. It was a very tight ensemble group. They really liked each other. They laughed a lot. They thought each other was very funny. So we did a lot of laughing on set. And one of the episodes was during March Madness. Oh my gosh. I do know basketball. I know the game because I used to play it when I was younger, but I don't follow any of this stuff. Third Rock as a whole, all the crew, they all fill out, what do you call those?
The brackets?
The brackets. Uh-huh. Mm-hmm. And they said, you've got to put, it's only whatever, $10. I said, well, I'll give you the $10, but I don't care. No, you got to do it. So, all right, give me the list. I just feel, there's a lot.
I do March Madness with my theater company every year, and I now know more about it because we just love battling each other.
Grew up in a baseball family, so I have no idea.
Anyway, that was Third Rock.
Do you have any particular favorite roles of your own, though?
My absolute favorite was to do Life with Bonnie. It was 2 seasons. The part was written for me. So there was almost no effort in learning because it was so organic to me. That was a great, lovely thing. I loved all the people. We worked well together. I was being paid regularly. I knew what I would make for X amount of weeks, and I was being paid very well. Very well. I knew that I was going to work 3 weeks and have a week off. So suddenly I had a schedule. That was fantastic. I also didn't have to audition for anything else. I wasn't constantly, getting material, trying to learn it, blah, blah, go again, not get it, okay, do it. So I loved not having to audition. I still worked. People would just hire me for the week off. I still did other jobs. I love people. I'm outgoing. So all the publicity stuff I thoroughly enjoyed. Oh, this parade, or we're going to do the Paley Fest, or we're going to be on a panel here. Loved all of it. So it was, and of course, financial security. I never had to think about that we did 2 seasons, so 44 episodes. Also, because I had done 2 years of it, I was then able afterwards to accept get and accept a job at the Taper Theater, which is the number one, Lort A company in Los Angeles, and do a wonderful part because I didn't need to make money. I didn't need to have residuals for a year. And so I loved that. And I knew that, you see, everything I'm telling you is about left brain stuff. Mm-hmm. I knew that I knew that making this money was going to secure our retirement. I'd always been good at saving, but this took it right over, and that has been the case.
I have often said that I can only be creative if I can spreadsheet the schedule around it.
There you go.
It's very important to know because, and we say this, you can't take care of others if you can't take care of yourself. You can't branch out into creative avenues if you can't clean your apartment, if you can't have an apartment, if you can't think past the month.
Yes.
Those things are very important and go hand in hand.
Yes. So for many reasons, but I must say artistically, I thought Bonnie and Don Lake, I thought it was hilarious.
They're wonderful, yeah.
We laughed so hard on that set,
You can tell.
And when we got to the end of the second year, she came and said, I'm not supposed to tell you, but they've already told me, but it's not official, but they have told me that no matter what, the only show they know they are keeping is ours. And we went, oh my God, oh. And so then I thought, well, now I can look for another piece of property, We started looking down at Manhattan Beach and everything. And then 2 months later, she called and said that we'd been canceled. I felt devastated for her. I'd sort of been around it long enough to say, well, it happens. But for her, this was major disappointment. And my understanding and what I've sort of surmised at that time, and then I've seen it play out more, is that the person who was telling her originally that we would be into a third year, because we had met all our numbers, we'd exceeded the numbers they wanted as far as viewership, and she stayed under budget. And that's business. And so they said that, you're our girl. But in just those few months, the person who was in charge of ABC Comedy was replaced. They brought in
sometimes.
Ann Sweeney.
Yeah.
And I don't think Ann Sweeney had anything against Life with Bonnie, but you see it over and over when people are put into a position, they clean house and set their agenda.
They make it their own.
And so I think that's what happened, It was a great time for me.
Yeah, I loved the show. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I grew up really idolizing Bonnie. I gravitated towards writers and actors, even not realizing that I wanted to be a writer. I think I subconsciously knew that I wanted to do both.
Yeah.
So that's when I first started to know your name. I always knew your face, but it wasn't until I think Return to Me. And we talked about it briefly on the show, obviously, from things that I've read. But I'd love to hear from your point of view, your working relationship with Bonnie and how that started.
Well, she was brought out for a series called Grand,
which I loved. Mm-hmm. That's where I first discovered Bonnie was in Grand.
Yes, as did I. And I played her secretary. I recurred. And she had never done television or anything. She was discovered at Second City and brought out for that part. And, we just, we're both very Catholic girls. She's from Chicago. I'm from St. Louis. I'm like an older sister to her. I'm probably about 15 years older. There was an immediate shorthand. We both came from large families. We just knew each other from our own upbringings. And so after the show, no, it wasn't canceled. It was, of course, eventually. But when she said this to me, she said, I don't know what's going to happen to me or where I'm going, but wherever I'm going, you're going with me. And I thought, is she not the cutest kid on the block? Oh, my gosh. I was flat as, that's so sweet. Thank you, dear. Now, the remarkable thing is that she did it. Nobody does it. They may have the intention, but the power structure in LA, which we all know now is changing, but the power structure is such that you abdicate so much because you want your product to be bought, you want it to be seen, you want it to be on this budget. Whatever you're abdicating to, you're just doing it because you want to get to the end result. Bonnie didn't. She didn't abdicate. And there are a lot of stories about her not abdicating things. And one of my favorite ones is about Life with Bonnie. It was the pilot. And there's an opening scene where she's in the bedroom. They're getting dressed to get out of the house. There's chaos. And they finally make it out the door of the room. And as you see the door frame, there's a cross near the door frame. And she got notes for editing that they'd have to, cut that so that didn't show, because they don't want to offend people. There might be other faiths out there, and et cetera, et cetera. And this is not a direct quote because it's been a long time, but she basically said something like, when you bought me, you bought that cross.
Wow.
Good for her.
She said, now I'll be happy to put a menorah up at some point, but that stays. That's who this show is. So I admire that no end. I mean, that's extraordinary. People just don't do it. Then after we did Grand, it'd been several years, and she called and said, would you do a table read? I've got a movie. I said, oh, yeah, I'd love to, So I just went to the table read. And at the end of it, she said something like, well, we want you for Sophie. I said, well, it's fantastic. She said, now how much money do you need? I said, well, Bonnie, I think you better talk to my agent. They've got to earn their 10%, and this is how they do it. Since I didn't have to go on the audition, they at least have to do the contract, But anyway,
Oh, that's fantastic.
It was incredible. So I did that, and it was 6 weeks of shooting in Chicago and per diem, and it was just fabulous,
We were just talking how much we love that movie.
Yeah, great movie.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's a gem.
We both love that movie so much. And you don't talk about it often. It doesn't come up often in current conversation, but it really needs to.
Yeah.
It stands the test of time.
Whenever it's on TV, you'll see on Twitter, everyone starts talking about it. Oh, I love this movie.
oh, yeah,
I forgot
that
about
one.
This commercial, this 8th commercial I shot for McDonald's, one of the other actors, a big 6'7" guy, he came up to me and said, oh my gosh, I just have to tell you, I just loved you and Return to Me. It isn't talked about, but I cannot tell you how much I get checks, nice big checks, because of the rentals or the downloading of the, what do they call it, streaming. So it has indeed stood the test of time. And she refers to it as the largest home movie ever made.
Well, I think half her family's in it, right?
Yeah.
A lot of them.
Yeah, that's a family affair right in that movie.
In fact, again, I recall now a story she told me that the union had complained to her that she had too many, non-union. She said, well, that's the way it's going to be. So I don't know, perhaps she hired some other, I don't know fully that story, but I know that they did approach her. There was too many non-union shows. My family. So
Deal.
I did want to say another part that I love doing, although it was very difficult, was I recurred on a soap opera for 8 years, and it was called Passions.
Oh, yeah, Passions.
She's a big fan.
Big fan.
You watched Passions?
I was the perfect age in small town Minnesota, watching Passions on my days homesick from school and all that stuff, or finding it later. And I was just, I love heightened genre fiction, and it just tickled my soul. It was ridiculous, and I loved it.
Oh yes, still they're a huge following. They're still, and you can get the episodes online for free. You just sign up, and So I hear from people, I'm on my 3rd season, and you're so this, and what happened on that day? Did you mean that when you did this? And, okay, so anyway, the reason I liked it, number one. I loved that I didn't have to wear makeup. So my call time was so great. I had like 15 minutes.
Well, that's what we love about this podcast.
Yes. love being on a podcast.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. So I didn't have to wear makeup. I always had the same uniform, essentially the same khaki pants and work shirt, I will say when it was originally a 9-day job, they were doing the, the Janet Leigh,
Psycho.
Norman Bates, Psycho. Okay, they were doing a takeoff on that, and I had just done a Will and Grace. That's a very popular episode of Will and Grace. It stars Neil Patrick King, and anyway, I'd done it and played a who had married a very effeminate man, and they had gone through this re-identifying who they truly were, and are now straight. We represent the straight couples. Anyway, so the breakdown apparently for this part on Passions came out the next day from that airing. And the casting director, Jackie Brisky, had just seen that episode. So she called the John Riley, the executive producer writer in New York, and said, I just saw this, Marianne Muellerleile, she's on an NBC show, and it's the same network. And he said, just send me the clip. And he did, and so I was hired off that.
Wow.
So, yeah. I always tell young people, you never know what your job's leading to. It's a great example.
Absolutely.
So I got it, and then while I was memorizing it, I thought, I better ask my agent, how are they going to work the part where Daddy in the skull that I carried around, are they going to have a voiceover person just off stage saying those lines or whatever? And so I asked, and when he called me back, he said, no, you're voicing both of the characters. I was so shocked. I said, well, thank God I decided to ask, because I wasn't really memorizing his part. I was just sort of, anyway, and it went obviously so well. I was on it for 8 years.
It is just a bunch of nut bars, and I love it.
Now, the thing that I loved about it was very challenging. When I worked, it was between 30 and 50 pages to memorize a night. So I memorized 3 days at a time. Concentrate very hard on day one, look at day two, at least be familiar with day three, and then just stayed in a constant rotation, and so that by the time I got to 3, it was day one. I was going to shoot the next day. It was all in my head. Now, the thing that's so challenging, it's not the pages that are so challenging in soap opera. It's the banality of it. You're in the same scene forever. And so they just tweak a little bit. So you got to kind of figure out ways to help you remember the why is it slightly varied. Okay, another thing is they shoot out of sequence. So if you're in an emotional scene and they're shooting out of sequence, you have no building to your peak level or your mid level. So I devised a way. When I went through the script, I based my emotional life on a number. And the number was between 1 and 10. So that by the time I picked up we're going to do scene F now. If it said 7, okay, I would just pay it 7 intensity.
That is left brain charting.
It worked.
Mm-hmm. It's a map.
It worked. So I also liked, I had gotten over, I know I'm talking a lot, but I guess.
No, we love it.
No, it's fascinating.
We love it.
Yes.
That's okay. I also like the fact that I had to do many things that I initially thought was scary, and I didn't know how they were going to have me do it. And I soon realized that they're never going to jeopardize the actor, and there's always stunt people. And so I came to know my stunt double very well. She did a lot of stuff, but also, the character was always searching for Timmy and Timmy. I'm going to try to kill and so they put me in like the sewers of New York, and they built a canal, and they heated the water so I wasn't cold, and I was swimming in it for about 3 days, and then they put coffee grounds in it to make it look dirty and awful, and then they had they put fake rats and live rats.
What?
They had a rat wrangler, So it was those things that I knew that were coming that I was like, oh my God, no, it's going to be fine. I don't have to think about that. It's not my job. Okay, fine. And so, the one time I remember there was an earthquake, and I fell into a pit, and there were huge roaches in the bottom, like that. You can't see, like 3 inches, like palmetto things. And so there were some fake ones, but then there were live ones.
Oh, come on.
Oh, come on.
That's too much. No.
Come on.
Oh, there were so many things. There were so many things. That show was so outrageous. There'll never be anything like it. Never.
I really think that it's time for a renaissance. I really think you can go binge that as just an escapist.
It's unbelievable.
Special world. It's you're not going into that show for gripping realism. This is not 3 Billboards. No. You are going in because you want to escape and just watch these nut bars live their lives. And it is delightful.
That's the tagline.
That's your welcome, Passions. If only you had me.
Yeah, I watched Young and the Restless, which I watched Young and the Restless as a child, which you have also been on. Yes.
I started with Days of Our Lives.
Yeah, no, exactly. Like I don't know about Passions for you, but I feel like soap operas, you sort of you took it on from your mother, and I think that's kind of why they've sort of not necessarily died out. They're still out there, but not as popular because
it's different. Yeah.
It's just a different, yeah.
Well, my sisters are significantly older than me. I was born when they were teenagers, so my mother, who was beginning of the baby boomers, didn't really watched the soap operas as much, but my sisters did because they were teenagers in the early 80s and so on. So I picked up there. So I remember my middle sister, Julie, sitting me down when I was young watching Days of Our Lives. And so I had really strong opinions about Stefano and Marlena and all these things. And then, but Passions was like the new one that came out right at the time for me to have.
So how old were you when you watched Passions?
Oh.
I was probably,
10,
I think
12?
I was junior high.
Okay. Because I watched Ryan's Hope when I was in kindergarten.
Oh.
That was my sort of entry into soaps.
Oh my goodness. I have done now Young and the Restless and Days of Our Lives. I've actually done about 6 of them, but
there's nothing like Passions. It's a game changer.
Is there anything you can think of that we haven't asked?
I mean, I want to ask more about everything.
Yeah, that's the problem. You've done too much.
The thing I appreciate about your resume, as it were, on IMDb is the variety.
Yeah.
And I think something I appreciate about the 3 goals that you had, as far as your careers, Lauren and I are both women who were told about our type being older than ourselves and looking for longevity, waiting for that moment to hit, like an Allison Janney, like these women. Yeah. And I think that's why we are so attracted to actresses like yourself and creators like Diane and Bonnie and the women who look at longevity and not just flash in the pan and not just being. It's what's the quote from First Wives Club? You're the babe, you're district attorney, and you're driving Miss Daisy.
Yeah.
And not letting the industry put you into those 3 roles, but finding the variety that's available to you. And I find that fascinating within yours because there's so many different types of women we could talk about with you that you've portrayed.
And with you said in grad school that you were told you wouldn't work until you were in your 40s. When I was in grad school, not to me personally, but blanketly to most of my class, we were told you won't work till you're in your mid-30s. So to hear that when you're, 22, 25, it was like, oh, wait, what? I just spent $60,000 on this grad degree. But it is very true for at least, for like ourselves.
Well, and of course, I did the 10 years of stage before I came. And because you can play any age on stage.
Yes, you can.
And I have. And I also did it for 10 years because I wanted to be vested in that union before I left it.
Yes.
Again, left brain. So that's when I moved to New York. And so coming at 33, and coming after 10 years of stage, I had all the confidence in the world. It never occurred to me I wouldn't get work. And I did. If you have time, I'll tell you the first audition I did.
Oh, please
do that.
So back then, in 81, they had what they called go-tos or generals. But, all right, so they don't do those anymore, which is a shame. So they were, so I'd done a few of these general auditions. And then I got a call for a real audition, or general interviews. That's what they were. They were just getting to know you. And so I then got a call for an audition, and it was for Magnum PI and it was Universal Studio. So I thought, well, I had made myself an audition blouse. And so I'd be wearing my audition blouse and a denim skirt. And I was told I was going to play a Russian shot putter. And I thought, oh, I don't know Russian. So I called the only other actor I knew in LA. And I said, Joel, can you do a Russian accent? He said, no. I said, well, what am I going to do? I can't get the material. They said I should just go early and read it. I said, I don't understand it. They're not going to give me a script. I won't understand the tone or, where my character moves the story forward, and I won't understand the conflict. He said, oh, Marianne, no, you're never going to get a full script. You're going to get what we call sides. And that's just a few sides that there are a few pieces of the script that they're going to want you to read. And then that's going to be enough. See, it's not as the material is lightweight and you won't need to delve into the tone of the sitcom. I said, okay, but what do I do about the Russian accent? He said, go like 30 minutes before, get the script, call me, and then I will give you my best version of Russian, and then you write it down phonetically above the words, and then just memorize that and then go in. Okay, so I did that. So I got into the office. Number one, I'd never been to a studio. I was blown away by Universal. It was fantastic. It was so beautiful. And then I got into it was the producer, Dom Belisario.
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yes, it's a big name. Mm-hmm. A lot of shows, but it didn't mean anything to me. What was so impressive is it was a big fancy room. It was a huge desk. He had a full wall of books behind him in a gorgeous mahogany bookcase. I mean, this was high end. I was very impressed with that. And then the casting director sat over in a little corner, and he happened to be in a wingback chair. So he, although was a person of some stature, he looked tiny. He looked just like a little mouse over there. I thought, okay. Now he's the person who's going to read with me. And so I did it, my version. And Dom Belisario said, well, that was everything from Inger Stevens to Desi Arnaz. And I said, yes, but I was consistent. He just smiled at me. I remembered my sister telling me, who'd gotten her degree in theater. She said, when you make a decision about your character, since you can't know what they want, just make a decision and stay consistent with it. So there it was, flying out of my mouth, what my sister had taught me. So I left. Okay, that was on a Wednesday. And I thought, well, I got nothing going on. I'm going down to my brother's house in Anaheim, pick up the keys to his house in Mexico. I'm going to go down for 5 days. Now, when I got there, I thought, oh, wait, I'm supposed to remember to call my machine, because in New York you had a service. They didn't have machines, voice machines. And so I thought, okay, I'm supposed to call my machine every 2 hours. I don't think I need to, but I'll call, because once I hit the border, I can't call. So I called, and there was a call back. They said, they want you to come back on Friday. They're sending you to a dialect coach on Thursday.
Wow.
So I came right back. The next day I went to a man by the name of Alan Rich. He was not a dialect coach, but he was in the episode, and he was going to play a Russian. Mm. And he's an extremely well regarded character actor, still working. He's in his 90s. I walked in. It was up in the Hollywood Hills. I'd never been there. I walked in, and the whole house was white. I thought, oh my gosh, this is a Hollywood, la-di-da house. As I came into the entrance hall, there was a wraparound a balcony around the entrance hall and part of the dining room, wrought iron. And Alan said, would you like to meet? Oh, I want to introduce you to my wife, Elaine. So Elaine came down, and behind Elaine was this magnificent looking girl, drop dead gorgeous girl, black hair pulled back straight down to her her back, beautiful, huge blue eyes, full voluptuous lips. Elaine Rich, she's, hi, I'm a manager. This is my client, Fran Drescher.
Oh, of course.
Cool.
She said, hi, how are
Yeah.
you? And I said, oh, well, thank you. Hello, nice to meet you. And in my mind, I thought, oh my God, it's a starlet. She's a bimbo. Who can be that magnificent looking and have that voice? I couldn't put it together. But she was perfectly lovely. We had a few words. They left. I then walked into the living room, which was a sunken living room. I said, oh my gosh, it's a sunken white living room. I am truly in Hollywood. I've met a Hollywood starlet. I've met a manager. And now this man's going to teach me Russian. I came with my little cassette. I put it down. I said, here's the script. All you have to do is say my lines in Russian with a Russian accent. I'll record it. That's it. It's no, we can work. He said, no, I don't need any interpretation. Just record it. He did that. I was gone in 10 minutes. Went home, learned the accent, went back into the exact same interpretation the next day. I barely slept, though, because while I was in my brother's house, my niece said, well, you got a call back from Magnum PI. I said, yeah, it's exciting. She said, but it shoots in Hawaii. I said, well, they're not going to send me to Hawaii. She said, oh, no, it all shoots in Hawaii. I said, my part isn't that big. They're not going to. She said, it shoots in Hawaii. So I thought, okay, because, if you've only done stage, you only have Monday night off. Yeah. You do your laundry. You don't watch TV. You maybe go roller skating. You maybe go out to, movie or something. I knew no television. Oh, of course, I went in Friday. I did it. I was booked. Monday, they sent a limousine to pick me up. I flew to Hawaii for 9 days. I was paid $1,900, the most I have ever, at that point, ever made on any job. Of course, they give you money every day for food, except they feed you on the set every day. I only had 2.5 days work, so they gave me a chauffeur-driven car to drive me around to Oahu and Waikiki and the cultural center and all that. I did that. They had my name on the back of my chair. I nearly had a coronary. I took a photograph of it. They put a parrot on my shoulder during a break. There was a parrot in the area. They were having fun. I took a photograph. It was the most extraordinary. I went. They dropped me. Oh, they put me in first class. I'd never flown first class. There was a girl next to me. She was in the show with me. She was in chatting. She said, "Well, I'm the guest star." I said, "Oh, well, I'm the co-star." And in my mind, co meant equal. I, of course, co-star a small part, guest star a bigger part. I thought, well, I'm in first class. I'm sitting next to this girl who's also in the show, but I'm apparently equal. We got to the hotel, the Colony Surf. I go in. They show me to my room. I walk in. There's a huge kitchen. It has all the utensils, coffee pot, everything, china, everything. I walk into the other room. Huge spray of flowers. The flowers with food stuff on a table. Then there's a king-size bed over there. Then you go 2 more feet, and it's supposed to be the living room. Huge spray of Hawaiian flowers. I mean, they're all 4 or 5 feet apart. Another big king-size bed. Go into the bathroom. I could have slept in the bathroom. I thought, there's been a mistake. I went down to the front desk. I said, there's been a mistake. I don't think I'm supposed to be in this room. There's all these, gifts and stuff. And he said, oh, no, you're supposed to be there. I said, but he said, no, the guest star has the penthouse.
Of course. Well,
I got it. But I determined I was going to see that penthouse before I left.
Mm-hmm.
I did.
Yeah,
she did not have the better room.
Really?
Nice. It was smaller. It was higher, but it was smaller. Anyway, so that's
a great story.
That's the dream.
Unbelievable. Then when I came back, my next audition was for The Greatest American Hero. We shot in Acton, which is a small town outside of L.A. It's all dusty. Anyway, I booked it. And to me, this was God telling me I'd made the right decision. here I was going to get residuals and all that. Then of course after getting those 2 jobs, I settled into not getting jobs. I got a straight job, and I booked, but not like those first 2.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway,
that's so funny. My love of Murder, She Wrote is the reason I know Magnum PI, because I watched it obsessively. Also, because I said to Lauren in the past that I got in an argument with a female friend of my young age because who had more ownership of Murder, She Wrote, because her name was Angela and my name was Jessica, and I felt that I had more ownership, but she was the actor's name. But I remember watching the crossover episode.
Wait, there was a Magnum PI okay, that I didn't even know. I thought I knew everything about TV. Apparently I don't.
They crossed over with Magnum PI, and I was like, who is that mustache?
Did. Of course they did. It's CBS. Of course they did.
Yeah.
I do love a mustache.
This has been lovely.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you so much.
It's been our absolute pleasure getting to know you a little more.
Same here. We've admired your work for a very long time, and it's been lovely.
Thank you so much. I've enjoyed this today.
Great.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.